Welcome to the show. It's been an interesting past couple of days as Bitcoin has corrected heavily. There's been a lot of fear in the market. And in fact, the stock market actually fell to extreme fear. Now, you know what that means on this channel in a bull market. It means I'm going to be checking in with you to make sure that you're not getting shaken out and that you still have conviction, you tune out the noise, and you zoom out and you understand where we're at. Now, does that mean we can't go lower from here? Not necessarily, but it does mean that I am bullish on the future of this asset and even the near term as we have our first pro-crypto president in history coming into power in just a few days on January 20th, who has already made some pretty big announcements during this correction, including his potential 24-member cabinet. Michael Saylor bought the dip, and BlackRock is out there saying that this is one of the best assets of all time. So while in the near term we may not be completely out of the woods, I believe that the end of January and beginning of February is going to start to be the beginning of that big explosive wave. I'm going to explain why. And I want to hammer home the last video that I talked about with lead analyst from Capital Mindset Trading Group, Trip. Wow, so much alpha there. We've been just nailing it. I mean, I just got in an XLM trade, really up big on that. And they're really able to identify those undervalued altcoins with really great setups. So if you're interested in learning how to trade, do sign up for the group with my code CryptoMegan for 10% off 6 months or more. And it will absolutely change your life. And that's what this is about. This is about changing your life. This is about not missing the train and about not getting it wrong this time, about not being sidelined. I just spoke with a gentleman earlier who told me, he got sidelined on the Dell trade when somebody told him it wasn't going to work out. He got sidelined on internet, the .com phase. And now he wants to not have that happen again. He wants to get on board the blockchain train. And that makes me so happy to hear because honestly, this is a life-changing opportunity for anybody who decides to just take the reins and get on board before, the train leaves the station. I'll explain a little bit more where we're at as far as mass adoption on the technology curve, where we could be headed this cycle. And for the more near term, for those who want to know, should I buy now? Should I buy the dip or should I just hold? I will be giving you some information as to previous bull runs, corrections, and where I think we will head in the next coming weeks, right? With exact stats from my favorite analyst, Crypto Crown, Crown's Crypto Cave, Eric Crown. Really love his TA, and Trip, lead admin of Capital Mindset, hammered home. I want you to just really think about this. The next time you think about panic selling or panic buying even, that retail trades based on fear and greed and emotion, while whales trade on time, date, and energy. And that energy and that time and date based on the specific time measurement tools they use in the group with the fibs shows that by February 6th, Bitcoin could hit anywhere up to $145,000. Now, if you want to go and check that video out, it is so informative. You will learn a lot in the process. It's the last video I uploaded. And so that's what we'll be going over today. And also just more on those specific announcements on Trump's plans on what I think could trigger this next wave up. And it looks to me as if instead of a sell the news event, it could be a buy the news event when Trump gets inaugurated. And things are looking very exciting indeed. Many may think I'm perma bullish. It's just is what it is. I'm bullish in a bull cycle with a pro-crypto president, with a pro-crypto cabinet. It's just how I position myself. And honestly, I'm in this for the long term. And that's the way that I'm looking at. And that's the way I believe I'll be successful. So I want to help all of you be on the same train. And, regardless of what happens in the very near term, as long as you have a long-term mentality, you'll do fine. Right? So without further ado, I'm your host, Megan Nilsson, aka Crypto Megan, coming to you from sunny southern Marbella, Spain. Let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Please share this YouTube with your friends so we can grow. We're planning on scaling, doing shows every day. In fact, I do listen to the polls. I just asked a poll about what you want my next video to be on. So do go and vote there and let me know because I will be structuring my content around you guys because that's all that matters at the end of the day, that we're on this journey, that I can somehow provide value to you and help you have more conviction in this wonderful industry. I just got off a board meeting call with Secret Network. I am now on the board of Secret Network, and it's a DCC play, Decentralized Confidential Compute, and they're really bringing confidential computing to AI in a big way. So that's one of my, low cap gem plays that I've shared several times on the channel. And I'll be bringing you that kind of alpha throughout the bull run. And for those of you who want to just know what happens to my altcoins and when, I'll be going over that too in this episode. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, so we're going to start this sentiment check off with just something to shake you and rattle you out of the fear and out of the emotions that you may be feeling during this dip. Your time is pretty much out. If you don't hold juicy fat bags of crypto by now, you will forever be a disgrace to your bloodline. Super cycle. Now, though that sounds a bit dramatic, guys, man, I'm trying to hammer home that it's just so true. We're on the verge of such an explosive movement here. And regardless of what happens in the short term, which I believe is going to be explosive, just try to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to repeat the phrase that I've said in multiple streams. Adoption feels gradual until in hindsight, it looks explosive. And we'll look back at this blip in the radar and wonder, why weren't we buying the dip? Why weren't we trying to learn all that we could? We don't want our kids to be asking us, why didn't you take advantage of this amazing new movement when you had the chance? We're right there. Opportunity is now. This is not to get you to FOMO in or panic buy. It's just to get you to have a sense of urgency. Not a rush, but an urgency to learn as much as you possibly can. Okay? And as far as dips, whether or not this dip is normal or if there's something different about this cycle, if you're worried that this is the end of the bull market, know this. In December 2020, Bitcoin dumped 12% after witnessing a 77% rally in October to November. It then went from 17,000 to 41,000, a 136% move in 23 days. Now that's really interesting because depending on when we finish this correction, the timeline that Tripp gave for having that explosive move up to potentially 145,000 by February 6th in the Capital Mindset group. Do sign up for Capital Mindset, by the way, the trading group, if you want to learn how to trade, or if you're just an investor who wants to learn how to buy the bottom of patterns or want to learn how to long. There was a terrific long setup that we called at 90,000 with the take profit level at 97,000 now on Bitcoin. And they're just monitoring the charts 24/7, some of the best traders in the world, in Web3. In crypto. And I am so excited to be, a part of the board now and a part owner there. And I want to give as much value as I can. So I will be updating my news channel regularly. They have news coming out 24/7. I mean, it is round the clock. It is just an amazing group and it will change your life. So link is in the description below and you do get a 10% off code using my name, Crypto Megan. So something similar is happening right now with Bitcoin experiencing a 13% dip after a massive Q4. That's right. So yeah, what I was saying before, could this potentially line us up for anywhere from 125K to 145K run, just a massive run before another correction? And that leads me to my next chart. But first I want to show you just visually. So those of you who are fearful right now, you can see this. You don't want to sell into fear. None of this is ever financial advice. Only you know your strategy. But I will say this, you should never be so over leveraged that you need your money by a certain point in time. You should always have a very long-term view when you're putting the money into the market and know that you could lose it, right? So just try to have a different mindset and you'll just be much more successful. Don't overtrade. So this is the long setup that we had in the group. And the signal was to buy here on support at 90,000 with the take profit here at around 97,000. Phenomenal calls so far. People are very happy. And this is what it's about. This is a skill that you can learn that you can use in a bear market as well. You're learning to leverage trade. But you start by learning how to trade in general. You start by understanding the way charts move and ebb and flow. Because at the end of the day, what you'll see is that it's usually a scenario of show me the charts and I'll tell you the news. That this charts were already telling the story and the news either exacerbated that move or, came afterward. Narratives can be spun at the drop of a dime. I do believe that, it's a bigger asset now. Institutions are trading it. They took a lot of profit in December and we're just right on track. We're still bull market intact. We haven't violated any key levels. So just know that. Okay, and then more on the dip. In 2017, Bitcoin corrections would be 30 to 40%. In fact, during 2017 bull market, Bitcoin experienced 5 major pullbacks, which preceded new all-time highs. The average bull market correction was about 35%. This is from before, but just to give you an idea in previous bull runs, what happened. Now, I believe the average on this one is more toward 50 to 20%, but still, it's just to show that these corrections are actually, in fact, normal. Bitcoin is going through a bull run correction. In 2017 and 21 cycles, Bitcoin had 4 or more 25% corrections before the blow off top. It's going to go above 150K this cycle. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different metrics that are showing that the range, the stock to flow range, which is created by Plan B, which has been pretty accurate throughout the years, albeit not spot on, shows that the range is 250,000 to 1 million this cycle. So it'll be interesting to see where we land. Now, this is a chart from Capital Mindset Group, just to give you an idea of key support levels. The golden 618 fib level here that Bitcoin loves is at $73,000 right now. I don't see that playing out. These are the key support levels to watch. We briefly went below this area here, this key support level at around the $90,000 range. But now we're back above it. We're trading well above it at about 96,400 at the time of recording. So nice bounce so far. So now I want to show you the total 3 market cap, which is all altcoins excluding stablecoins, Bitcoin, and ETH. And this is just to give us an idea as to when altcoin season, when do we get that euphoric altcoin mania phase? Because let me tell you, what we just saw was potentially the beginning of the essence of DeFi summer. And for those of you who weren't around, DeFi summer was, it was explosive. It was all about DeFi. Now I believe that trend is going to be reflected in AI, but things just went crazy. And I think we just saw the very, very beginnings of that phase in this past pump, that things are going to get much more explosive than that. So as you can see, this is a symmetrical triangle. We will either break up or down out of this. It's equal odds, but we did wick down well below the support line here, but we came right back above it, and we're still playing out this triangle. Now the apex is coming up around February time, early February, and that is exactly Tripp's timeline for when Bitcoin could potentially be soaring. So it'll be interesting to see, but this chart gives us an idea as to when could we potentially expect that? And it looks like it could be very soon. And with these kind of metrics, I'm not waiting. I'm averaging in, I'm dollar cost averaging, or else I'm just holding. I'm just holding and watching and letting things play out. And I'm not obsessing over the charts. I'm going and doing things. I'm walking away. I'm focusing on other things. I'm focusing on long-term. Eyes on the prize. You must be laser focused and tune out the noise. Now, President-elect Trump expected to issue executive orders related to crypto policies on his first day in office. Okay, these are the news cycles that we're getting. And during the dip, while everybody else is panicking, while retail is selling their Bitcoin to BlackRock, Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, is buying the dip yet again, 2,500 Bitcoin, just above, worth $243 million. As he said, he'll be buying the top forever. He's truly an advocate for the space, and he's now also suggesting that Amazon founder Jeff Bezos buy $600 million worth of Bitcoin. It's really cool to see Michael Saylor championing Bitcoin out there with all these heavy hitters who are now donating to the Trump Foundation and who are all kind of getting on board. And I don't know if you guys saw that interview with Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg. If you did, let me know. But man, that was a different look. I mean, I always thought of him as the control guy, the censorship guy, but it seems that the government has been interfering quite a bit. And I believe that these next 4 years are going to be massive, massive years of change. Things are going to get rattled, going to get shaken up. And I want to make a comment as to why also there was a lot of fear in the stock markets. So the Fed, Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, came out and said that actually the economy is looking a bit stronger than he had thought, which is good, right? In the end, the economy looks stronger, and they'll be doing less rate cuts, most likely. So from the expected around 3 rate cuts, potentially there's 1. Bank of America or one of the big banks just came out and said they expect 0. So there's a lot of FUD going on. But at the end of the day, there's about $7 trillion in money markets right now that eventually gets injected into these markets. And with Trump coming in, so at the end of the day, they're going to want to weaken the dollar to strengthen the markets, allow other countries to compete. And I think that we're going to have this explosive move regardless of whether we get those 3 rate cuts or the 1 rate cut or however they decide to go. But at the end of the day, the Fed controls the narrative, and through their minutes where they actually get to talk is when he gave his hawkish remarks about not having those rate cuts. So that's a little bit of a background, but just a lot of something to tune into and pay attention to, but it doesn't change my overall thesis. Now, here's breaking. The U.S. President Trump will form a crypto advisory council of 24 leaders to draft legislation, build a Bitcoin reserve, and promote regulatory clarity. Golden bull run of 2025, locked, loaded, coming. The previous administration is composed of an anti-crypto army with their pockets most likely lined by the banks, and no incentive to push this narrative forward, to look into it, no idea how to even approach it. And now he's saying, you know what, look, we don't understand this stuff, so we're going to be bringing the most brilliant minds to make these regulations. How bullish is that? I mean, geez, if you would have told me this in 2017, I wouldn't have believed you. I mean, this is very hard to comprehend. So to be bearish at this state is just bewildering to me. And even in my chats with some of the biggest crypto YouTubers or influencers and stuff, I saw so much fear. Guys, it's very important to zoom out. Not all of them, but there was some. And, that's a big indicator to me as to, wow, okay, these markets like to shake people out. They like to scare people. And there's a lot of PTSD from the last cycle, right? So a lot of people are speculating that Charles Hoskinson will be deemed one of these new advisors, which is very cool. And it's going to be a powerhouse team, and it's going to be really incredible to see. This is what I was speaking about earlier. The stock market entered extreme fear, which is pretty wild. And I want to show you another metric here. This is what I was talking about. A record amount of cash is still sitting on the sidelines. Almost $7 trillion was sitting in money market funds in the second quarter. Eventually, that money is injected into the markets. And here's a graph just to illustrate. Not sure who needs to hear this, but Bitcoin has never topped without tagging this trend line on the 1-month RSI. If it rises up as fast as it's ever gone up, the soonest it can get there is April. Also, a friendly reminder, all on-chain social and app ranking signals are ice cold. Okay, so he's saying we're nowhere near the top. And even if we get the fastest, most explosive, most unsustainable pump of our life, that most likely doesn't come to fruition or to full effect until April, if it's the most explosive one we've ever seen. So just keep that in mind, because a lot of people are asking, when is the top? When should we expect the top? Is this cycle already over? I believe we are very far away from being over. As he said, a friendly reminder, all on-chain social and app ranking signals are ice cold, meaning Coinbase isn't number one. All your neighbors aren't calling you up about it. There's so many different metrics. Even the YouTube viewership isn't, anywhere near its peak of, the last bull run all-time highs. So I think we have a ways to go here. And what I was speaking about earlier, Justin, BlackRock says Bitcoin is the world's leading and most widely adopted crypto asset. BlackRock is going out there talking about how it's the most widely adopted crypto asset. I mean, that's going to give people kind of like FOMO and also a sense of, man, I'm going to mess this up again if I don't get in, right? So it's an interesting time indeed. The adoption curve of Bitcoin is faster than any other global infrastructure rollout before it. It's growing faster than a rollout of the internet, mobile phones, and easily faster than virtual banking players like PayPal. Wow. And just think about how much PayPal has changed life as we know it, or virtual banking players, or the Revoluts. I mean, this is next level tech that's going to take the world by storm. I also want to show you this. This is the S curve, the technology adoption curve, and it shows innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. I believe we're, based on metrics that I've seen, that we're still somewhere in the early adopters phase. So you're not even to the early majority yet. And this is just to illustrate where we were in 2022. So if we go back here, we're somewhere in the early adopter phase, and that is really something special. So if you are a part of this phase, then you are ahead of the majority of the world. And congratulations, keep going. Don't stop. Don't give up. If you need support, tune into this channel. I'll be here for you each and every single day. I'm going to try to make daily uploads again. And we'll do this together, guys. Another cool thing, Bitcoin 1 week has broken well above the reaccumulation zone. The bull market parabola remains fully intact. So here it's just showing a parabola, which Bitcoin is currently following on its way up to what could be a blow-off top or a interim top before we have a second top later in the year, right? And that's showing somewhere in the April area. So there's a lot of confluence with date and time here. And don't forget, whales trade on that. Whales trade on energy. It's looking interesting. So it shows that this is a correction here before we have one explosive run up and then a deeper correction and then one final run before replaying out the whole Wyckoff accumulation phase. So yeah, we are definitely right on track. All metrics show that we could be in for a massive rally, and it's time to position. And if you're already positioned, if you already spent all your money, if you don't have any more money to dollar cost average in, then just make sure you don't panic sell without being fully informed on where we are and what's going on in the market. And just try to zoom out. I'm going to repeat it as much as I can until I'm blue in the face. Imagine being told back in October when Bitcoin dipped below 60,000 that just months later, the fear and greed index would hit 50 again with Bitcoin at 93,000, right? Talk about perspective. That's all. Enough said. And this is also interesting. President-elect Trump expected to repeal crypto accounting policy requiring banks holding digital assets to count them as liabilities. So that's what he's going to do in his term. He's going to make sure that like corporations can hold this, businesses can hold this. There's fair accounting rules that it'll make it easier for them to be able to hold it and to adopt it. And that is something that the past administration not only had no interest in doing, but it was doing the opposite. It was making it more and more difficult. So everything is about to fundamentally change as far as the regulatory landscape, which directly affects market cap, ease of use, ease of adoption, people getting in. I mean, it's not easy now for most people. This is Plan B, who I talked about earlier. My forward guidance for 2025 has not changed since 2022 when Bitcoin was at 20K. Rise into April 2024 having around stock to flow value. Pump after halving, 100K in 2024, 2025, hit the stock to flow target, which is 500K average, with the range being from 250K to $1 million. So that's just to give you an idea of where we could go based on multiple models. And here we have JP Morgan. This is why I always tell you to tune out the news. There's a lot of questionable actors out there. JP Morgan CEO calls Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme with no value, no intrinsic value. Okay, this is now. I mean, this is wild because actually, like, they're working on this thing called Onyx, which is RWA play, and he's here talking about how Bitcoin has no inherent value. I mean, and then JP Morgan comes out and predicts new proposed XRP and SOL ETFs may attract 14 billion worth of inflows. So just take it with a grain of salt when you see these headlines. Like I said, narratives can be spun at the drop of a dime, and they can make people either really greedy or really fearful. And that's why we're trying not to trade emotion. We're trying to stick to a strategy and continue to execute on that strategy, which is the hardest thing to do. So I commend all you guys who are out there, you fellow warriors. We're going to continue to do this. And just to leave you off with a few updates from Crown as to whether or not the bottom may be in. Check it out.
Talk about Bitcoin here. I wanted to follow up on the CME analysis where we're looking at that red 5 exponential moving average versus the yellow 21 exponential moving average. Again, the McDonald's indicators right here. And anytime that we've seen that cross the downside while both being above that green moving average, the 55 exponential, we've seen a minimum correction down to the 55. With the advent of yesterday's price action, we have indeed seen down to this first minimum corrective target. There are very specific things that I want to see by the end of the close tonight in order to confirm that Bitcoin at least is in for a big bounce and maybe even the lows in. But for right now, that first minimum target has been met. Here's all the prior instances in the last few years where we've seen that cross happen, and every fucking time in CME's history, we've seen at least a minimum correction to the 55, and in many cases, a little bit lower than that as well. Like you see over here, I mean, pretty much in almost all of these instances, to be honest. But it is a minimum target right there. So that has been met. So what can I say about that? That gives the green light to entertain the possibility of perhaps, the next major massive low being in. But as we'll go over in the next chart right here, where is it? Yes, right here. As we'll go over right here, Bitcoin's actually in danger of getting the 2-day time frame to do the same thing. And the 2-day time frame has the same sort of interpretation as the daily. Pretty much all instances in Bitcoin's history have had a minimum correction down to the 55 if those moving averages confirm across. Here's the thing though, these moving averages have not confirmed across just yet on the 2-day time frame. It will confirm across tonight, however, if Bitcoin closes below, and this is like my main level for today, about 95,000 bucks. Yeah. Anywhere below 95 or even 95 and maybe a small amount of change there, we will see those officially cross the downside. And that would make me more biased towards, things could kind of bounce a little bit more here, but still I'd be looking for that minimum target to the downside to be met. And at current pace, the 55 is at 87,150. Of course, each and every day it will move up a slight amount, but for right now, that's where it's at. And so if we were to confirm that cross, I would generally be looking for at least one more test down around there, so slightly lower than what we're currently looking at right now, to entertain the possibility of the low being in, if you want to call it that. So again, line in the sand right now is about 95,000 bucks on spot price action.
So there you have it, the full analysis of what is happening right now in the markets. And I hope that it brought you some value. I hope that it calmed your fears if you're fearful out there. And we're ready to rock on, guys. It's an honor to be back with you here this week. I hope you're having an incredible week, and I'll see you tomorrow.